Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 20 of Lee County Unscripted, and today we're here with Jason Jacobs from Brexis Solutions. Jason, thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate you taking your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're a busy, busy man lately.
I have been. It's been crazy.
But
actually.
It's a blessing, right?
It is. It's good. I'm having a good time. Having a lot of fun.
So you started Brexis in this last year, but the idea of Brexis has probably been in your head for a long time, I assume.
Yeah, I left NAR back in November at the conference in New Orleans, right in Houston, Texas. And I left there thinking there's so much disruption in the marketplace today with lawsuits and rules. And at that time, NAR said they're getting out of the real estate MLS business. And before I got into real estate, I was in consulting. I thought I could help so many organizations.
Wait. What is Brexis Solutions?
Yeah.
For the person that doesn't know, what is it?
So Brexis Solutions is a consulting company that also has software. We do a company called Let's List, which is a platform for marketing for agents. So it's built on AI. Everything that we do at Brexis is built on artificial intelligence. And when you talk about that, it's not ChatGPT making an email. It's truly artificial intelligence that's doing automation of process. So here you load up your actual listing. It would actually create marketing for it and automatically send it out to your different platforms.
So your primary function is basically around real estate. That was the premise of it.
Mostly about real estate.
You're
Yep.
expanding.
Yep. And we got Broker Flow, which is a transaction management platform. And then we do consulting. So it's everything real estate, realtor associations, multiple listing services, as well as Chamber of Commerce's, nonprofits, and government.
Okay, now you can go back to NAR. Sorry.
Just jump in there and take that over.
So I left. I'm like, I could really help a lot of organizations. At the time, I was an executive for MLS and helping one organization kind of move forward. And I'm like, I have the vision to do so much more for other organizations that I got on a plan. I wrote a 60-page business plan and kind of presented it, get some funding behind it, and then made the decision that that was the direction I was going to go. And so we launched the first week of March of this year.
Awesome. So let's go back in time. And how did Jason start out?
So Jason started out actually in retail. So
When his daddy met his mama.
And two people love each other.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I started out in retail, so I was a retail mutt. I got my first real job, and actually which most people probably don't realize, is I actually went through the police academy. I thought I was going to be a police officer. And
How fitting.
Good choice.
Not to do it.
Not
Yeah, not to do it.
yeah, I had a FTO that basically talked me out of doing it.
Good.
Did an internship, and my FTO was like, he was miserable.
He did you
I'm
a
like,
solid.
I don't want to be in that role. That's what you guys are dealing with. So my first real job after that was I was a private investigator for about 2 years, and then I got into retail. I got a job at Best Buy and worked my way up to district manager and beyond, and did retail. And then I got into consulting. I had a call from somebody that said, we need help with doing this project. Do you have time to do it? So I normally did it. It was my first exposure to what consulting is, which is basically taking your knowledge base and applying it to help somebody else. And so I was able to do that. And that was a general contractor in Houston, Texas, that did major, large buildings, 35-story skyscrapers. And he was looking at reorganizing his entire organization and what should he outsource, what should he keep in-house. So we outsourced accounting. We kept everything else in-house. We outsourced engineering. We kept design in-house. So it's kind of looking at those different things, and you look at the cost and the talent and all those types of aspects. So that was really my first consulting, and after that, it kind of went after that. So I did that, consulted for Fortune 1000 retail companies, including what got me down here was consulting with Chico's, and then they hired me on their staff. I did that for 2 years, and when I got out of it, everybody down here was flipping houses like crazy in 05 and 06. And I'm like, I'm going to get my real estate license. So I did that, and I got into real estate. And then in 2010, I got my broker's license and opened my brokerage up.
And how long were you a broker for?
From 2010, opened Platinum Elite Realty, LLC, right off of 41 right behind Olive Garden. 2015, I became a national franchise with Next Home. Was Next Home Advisors. I did that to about 2022. And that's when I saw the market disruption really starting to happen. So I started consulting. Consulted for 4 different MLSs at that time, and then one of them offered me a job. And I got rid of getting out of the real estate brokerage game and selling, and then got into the MLS exec game and did that for a couple of years, and then started Brexis.
Is there anything you miss about being a broker?
So there's 2 things. So yes, on the broker side, it's helping agents become successful. That's always been my passion. It's
That are
helping
willing to
people
do the work.
that are willing to put the work in. Right, roll up your sleeves, do the work, earn it. So I do miss that, and I love seeing it was it was an agent I got that was a broker associate from the other coast, moved over here, and was doing like a deal every 2 months, and we got him up to doing 2 deals a month. There's nothing better than feeling that and seeing them buy a new house, buy a new car, putting money away, paying off debt, paying their taxes, right? Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I loved about it was I was a selling broker, so handing a couple that is ready for their first child coming and handing their keys to their first house. There's no feeling better ever than doing that. I miss those two things. I miss the closing table, the emotions around that, the home ownership dream, and then I miss helping agents that want to work become more successful by putting in the work. This is the hardest job that honestly I've ever done. And I worked before I got into police academy, things like that. I caddied, I did lawn work at a lawn care company. I started. That's hard work, but this is hard work because you're dealing with the emotional aspect of people and then the complexity of a transaction of their biggest investment they're ever going to make.
I think there's some parts of what you do now that overlaps into being a broker. You're doing the same thing. You're guiding and advising people, same as we do every day.
And you're absolutely correct. I mean, I think that's part of what got me into consulting to begin with, is helping people. And then what got me into consulting with Brex's Solutions is helping organizations be able to move forward. But it's kind of the same thing as a broker. They got to want to do it, right? Exactly. The agent wants to be successful or they don't. And I've been in front of boards that are like, yeah, we like what you say, but we're not going to do that, right? So you got to be okay with the fact that even though you give them very sound advice, that they may not take that advice and actually implement that advice.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit already in 2022 about a market disruption. And that was something that happened within NAR with their lawsuit, which is no secret to anybody. What do you think is the biggest disruptor right now going on nationally with MLS boards and MLS businesses itself?
So I'm going to give a simple term, but it's more complex than the term, and that's noise, right? So you've got portals suing brokerages, brokerage suing portals. That's noise. It doesn't affect the boots on the ground agent. It doesn't affect the buyer or seller. It's noise, right? It affects the people that sit around a board table. It affects the staff dealing with it. It's noise. I think you've got private listing networks. It's noise. Whether or not it should be or shouldn't be, noise. It's just a lot of noise. That's the biggest disruption, right? So it takes people's eyes off of what really is happening. And the worst part about the noise is that even before your brokers, your agents, your boots on the ground get it, the consumer sees it and reads it.
Right.
And I know that from my own family. I have a cousin who called me and goes, what's all this stuff going on? And why is this company suing this company? And they hear about it. So now you got to deal with the consumer. And the problem is some of these agents, all they want to do is sell houses. So they're not involved. They're not reading this stuff. They don't care about the noise. And they get asked a question from their customer going, why is XYZ suing ABC and what's that all about? And they had no clue. So the noise is getting to the consumers, in my personal opinion. But I think that's one of the biggest disruptions that is happening today. A lot of lawsuits. And I think that there's a lot of danger moving forward with associations and MLS is getting sued more frequently. Everybody knows the MLS does make money. It's a for-profit business.
Right.
And well-oiled machines that are MLSs make a lot of money, at times. So I think that's probably going to be something on the very future that you're going to see a lot of those lawsuits. Then you have the broker lawsuits, big, small, and in between getting sued. And that hits a little closer to home for the agents because now the broker involved, where they work is involved. There's been a lot of conversation because some of these have not gone through yet, but a lot of consolidation and proposed consolidations, Real buying Remax. You had Compass buying Anywhere. You've got Bed Bath & Beyond buying Fathom.
Right.
I didn't hear about that one yet. That's the newest one, I guess.
Yeah, and you got EXP buying Nexome, right? So I don't call that noise. I think that's when you talk about disruption. There's anytime there's change, agents really don't love a lot of change.
Right.
It's change for them. What's going to happen next? So I think that becomes this disruption that is not real. But in their mind, it's real, especially if they work for one of those companies that was especially those that were bought in, right? So EXP buys Nexome, and Nexome is like, oh my God, what are we going to do now? Are we changing colors? Are we changing brands? And the same thing with Real and Remax. So I think that is true disruption to the agent today and wondering what's my future going to be because they may love their brand. Most agents go to a place, they love their broker and love their brand, period. That's why they're there.
Yeah.
As soon as that broker leaves, if they're not the owner, or as soon as the brand changes, there could be a mass exodus.
Right. Yeah. Brokers and managers set the culture along with the realtors that are in place. And if the culture's off, it doesn't matter what brand it is, people aren't going to stay there.
Correct.
And it's the same thing for associations and MLS companies.
Yeah, culture is everything, and that goes back even to retail, right?
Yeah.
I ran Best Buy stores. I mean, they had great Best Buy stores. You walked in, the energy was full, the music was loud, people were buying stuff, employees were helping people. You walked in other ones, it felt like you went to a morgue, where it just wasn't that same vibe. So yeah, culture is everything.
So what do you think happens in the future? Let's just say in the state of Florida, right? Or you can go national, I don't care. Like, what do you think happens with the MLSs?
There's two schools of thought on MLSs. You hear this from the prop tech companies, right, the vendors, and you hear it specifically from large brokerages, privately owned or either publicly owned brokerages. So you'll hear there's too many MLSs. What they try to do is, figure yourself as a broker. You're trying to, and if you have a state footprint, you're ingesting all these different data points into your systems, whether it's your CRM or it's your property management system or your transaction management system, and you're pulling all these different data fields in. And if it's not RISO compliant, right, if they're not RISO compliant, it's wonky and you got to manually do this data conversion. So it becomes a pain. So you got those folks saying, we really should have a national MLS. And then you have the practitioners and the brokers going, wait a minute, real estate's hyper-local, right? It would make no sense for Fort Myers MLS to have mountain range view in the MLS. We don't have mountains. We have a trash hill up on 41, but that's it. MLSs should be hyper-local, but there's so many of them. The good news is you've gone from 700 down to 600, down to under 500 today.
Right.
So for the future of Florida, we just had a large major merger that occurred in less than 7 weeks between Miami and our world, which is West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. Both their MLS and their associations merge. And hats off to both those leaders at the table on the volunteer side, and hats off to both the executives to make it work. Because for the brokers that are sitting in the middle somewhere between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, somewhere near Dolphin Stadium, those are people affected. Now they have to become a member of multiple locations. And at the end of the day, I can't tell when I leave Miami and when I leave West Palm Beach. To me, it's kind of the same interstate. And neither can the consumer. So them doing that strengthens data, strengthens relationships, helps the consumer. It's all positive. So the answer is I see a lot more of that type of consolidations happening. There's a lot of small organizations out there that probably should move into a larger organization that's going to do nothing but help the members, help the brokers, and help the consumer. And at the end of the day, there's not an agent or a broker out there that has a job without the consumer, period. And so everything that these associations and MLSs are doing when I sit in front of boards is look out for the consumer, right? Whether it's private listing networks or merger or consolidation, what is right for the consumer?
Right.
And that should be the guiding light to what you do.
What do you say to the realtors that have the mindset of that the only reason why I'm part of an association is so I have the MLS? Like, how do you fix that mindset?
And that's a problem, right? The value proposition of why an association's there. So in my mind, when I think of trade associations and before I got into real estate, to me, it's about advocacy. And advocacy is not only government advocacy, which is a large portion of it, right, through RPAC dollars and those types of things, but advocacy in the community. How do the realtor associations make a bigger impact in their community? And I don't mean by giving a check or doing a walk for them or whatever.
Right.
A bigger impact to the community, right, bringing that community together. So advocacy both on the consumer side and advocacy on the governmental side for the agents. Number two is education. I feel like the associations probably 15 years ago lost the association education game to private entities, the Jason Jacobs Real Estate School, right? And coming up with better, more interesting classes than what Florida realtors or local associations are providing. A lot of times they're afraid to pay a good instructor, right? You have a great instructor, but they're costing X. And we don't know if I want to spend the money. So that instructor then does something online. Those people join, they get their CE hours anyways, and they just don't walk through the door. So education needs to be looked at hard. And I think the third thing is the code of ethics. The code of ethics is a great platform. People, that's why you call yourself a realtor. But just like if you're a Florida bar or you're an orthopedic surgeon and you're bar certified in that orthopedic knee surgery, whatever, that's your niche. The realtors need to elevate their professionalism so that people look at it like that's a benefit. Today, I don't think people care, The consumers don't care, and other realtors don't care. So how do you raise that up? So it's like, I need to be a realtor. I need to be bar certified or certified in this orthopedic world I live in, so that it raises that. I mean, when I go look at doctors, I'm like, okay, they're board certified here, they're board certified here, they're board certified. That's a doctor I want to go to, because I can go to the other doctor who's not. But it just tells me they're board certified. I don't know what that exactly means, but it's a level above the other guy.
Well, they took the time to put back into their profession. Instead of just take, they're taking the time to actually put money back into their profession, just like realtors here need to put time back into their profession to keep up on code of ethics and to keep up on the latest. Like you said prior, how many of these realtors have consumers asking them questions that they don't know the answers to, that the consumers know about and they don't know about because they don't pick up an Inman subscription, or they don't look at their Florida realtors emails daily to see what's going on. So they're not vested in their business. They're just vested in the right now of the business.
Right. And I think there's danger there with realtors thinking, I've got my license, I'm moving on.
Right.
And through Brexis Solutions, we've looked at licensing in all 50 states and what it takes. And it's just not the hours. Like Texas, California, I think Nevada got some of the highest hours to get your license, right, as a whole. But it's what do you have to do after that? Some states say you have to do 24 hours within 2 years after you get your license. Some states say you have to do 36 hours in person in our state, 12 months after you get your license. So education and just competency of the realtor profession needs to be raised. So whether that's advocating through the association to the government officials saying maybe we should, because at the end of the day, they want the dues, they want that revenue coming into FREC and coming to DBPR, at least in Florida, right, and other states too. It's revenue streams. How do we still get those people to do it? But how do we raise the bar? Maybe you go from having a 2-year relicensing to every year to renew it. There's things they can do that would also raise that level as well. So we're looking at what that looks like. And what we're looking at from a Brexit solution standpoint is not so much what they have planned, but how do we make those systems work better? When I went inactive to become the MLS executive, I had to fax over my termination of my license. And it's 2024, and I'm faxing something over. These government entities, the licensing authorities, need to get with the times. And so we're looking at what kind of solutions can we create that will help expedite licensing, monitor CE credits better and automation, that you'll get a text, because how many agents go inactive because they forgot to do their CE? So getting a text 6 months early would probably be a good thing. But if you have to fax your termination letter, they're not on a texting system yet.
Right.
So we're looking at how can we build a system for those entities to help licensing, all licensing, not just real estate, but we're looking at doing that. That's one of our pet
As
projects.
Brexis, you're looking into doing that?
Yeah.
Again, another platform outside of real estate, broadening your horizons from real estate, because that, was your main focus, but then you've been approached by other people in other other industries to help them as well.
Yeah, and I think the verticals that approached us was at Chamber of Commerce for CEO search. And I said, well, do you do that? And I laugh about it. So I haven't said no yet. They're looking for a CEO at this Chamber of Commerce in Texas. But if you look at the verticals that we're in with nonprofits, realtor associations, MLSs, and chambers, they all have a couple things in common. They all have a volunteer board of directors that don't get paid.
Yep.
They all have a chief executive officer of some type that runs the organization. They all have staff, and they're all business related, right? So for the realtor associations, the business is realtors and brokers that they support. In Chamber of Commerce, it's all businesses, right? And non-for-profit typically has fundraising involved in those types of things. So we felt the verticals were still in alignment with what our knowledge base was to be able to expand into that. And then we started getting into different types of development of software. And that started with an MLS calling and saying, we hate our dashboard. Can you build a dashboard? And so with one of the softwares that we bought back in March came a development team with the package, so to speak, right, that built that system. So I called them and talked to them. And I said, can you build this dashboard? I'm like, yeah, we can. And then we had a consultant call us about a government entity that does housing vouchers to come up with a platform to not only search for housing that qualifies, but also ensuring that the rent rates are accurate so the state or city doesn't overpay for those vouchers. And so we took on that as well. But with the development crew of 75 people and 35 being AI developers, why would you not want to tap into that? And we worked really, really well together. In fact, last week, I had a meeting with the CEO of that company, and he wants to offer a partnership that he's got 2 softwares that he wants Brexis Solutions to sell for him, and going 50-50 on 2 pieces of software he developed in the real estate space.
Okay.
So working through those agreements right now, but we'll add to our repertoire of software on that side of it as well.
This is probably changing course a little bit, but we talk so much about AI, and your business is predicated upon AI. Since you have a real estate background, how do you think AI is going to shake up the realtor mentality and how they're going to make money?
I'll say a couple of things on this because it's on my head and my brain all the time. AI is a great thing, right? But AI sometimes does still hallucinate. I think the software that we're using, we're not building stuff on ChatGPT, for example. We're building stuff on our own artificial intelligence learned machine learning, right? So first and foremost, I would tell you that one of the things that Brexis Solutions is creating, will be done here in 2 weeks, is an AI policy manual that we're going to provide to brokers. Because I think first and foremost, brokers have to have some kind of guardrails up on what they're allowed to do with AI in their brokerages. We've seen things nationally where, and we've seen the lawsuits that come from this, right? Just recently, there was a lady that went into Claude and threw her pictures up and said, make this look better. And they took down a load-bearing wall and put a pool in the backyard. And those pictures went on the internet. Customer from California paid cash for the house, never saw it, had an inspection, but the inspector didn't know that the pictures in the MLS weren't the same.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Everything came back on the final inspection. She showed up to the house. There's a wall and there's no pool.
Did that buyer buy it without a realtor?
That buyer used the realtor that listed it.
Oh, good Lord. See, it's realtors like that
That gives it a bad name.
that give a bad name and give a car salesman
Yes.
fail.
Right.
And
It goes back to culture, though, too, right? You could tie it all
Well,
back to culture.
yeah.
It does, but it also goes back to the code of ethics,
Yeah.
right? Painting a clear picture of what the property is. It goes back to the law in that state,
Yeah.
right, of being able to do pictures that are right. So when you talk about AI and talk about pictures, we can do anything we want to a room,
Sure.
but what's the limit? What's the rules around that? So the broker handbook policy is one aspect. MLSs need to put out there what's allowed and not on AI and be very, very specific about it. And I can tell you from 500 MLSs, I know about 24 that have got comprehensive policies on artificial intelligence, because at the end of the day, the person that gets affected is the consumer.
Sure.
Same thing with the AI formatted descriptions for the property. We've all read through them. I used to laugh at them when I drink my coffee in the morning as an MLS exec. This is a gorgeous, stunning, brawling house. I mean, we just know what it is.
Literally a 3-2 in the worst part of town. And they're like,
Yeah.
stunning view of this garden. I was like, it looks like some weeds to me, but
Yeah.
tomato.
But we all know that, but people are okay. So again, raising the bar on professionalism, just all those intertwined to make it right, right? They have to raise the bar in professionalism. The brokers got to have policy. MLSs have to have guardrails and policy around it. Now, with that being said, there is a lot of space for AI in being able to do some really cool things with offers, being able to do cool things with photos, but there's got to be guardrails around it. There's one program we've got, BrokerFlow, looks at compliance of missing things in contracts, a signature, an initial, a date. That's powerful stuff for AI to really be using. So I think there's AI that helps with workflows and be able to leverage and be powerful in real estate. And then there's laziness use of AI, right? Write this description for me. And you never read it and they just put it up. Right. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff around that. We all see it. And even descriptions that are not right, you got to read everything. Even if your MLS provides it for you, go back and read the description and make sure you're okay with it. Because at the end of the day, the one thing I found out, because I've been following all these lawsuits, is that you can't blame AI. If you get pulled in front of the Florida Real Estate Commission, AI did it is not a defense.
Yeah, I had one person that was up in arms because the photos that we put into our MLS have an AI generated description on them, and the cabinets were gray, and it said it was white, or vice versa, and they were extremely called me and was extremely upset that they weren't properly described. I was like, I didn't even see that because I didn't put it in there. It was AI generated from the photo.
Yep.
So that's on me for not proofreading it.
Right. But that's 99% of the agents doing that. They're putting in a ChatGPT going, I got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and Leah Acres give me a description on it. And they're creating stuff and it's hallucinating and it's not right. And I tell you, to a point of adding bedrooms and baths, adding garage spaces, adding, a level of story, like a 2-story home. It's a 1-story home. But we're seeing this stuff happen. Where AI's got proven in real estate is on looking at listing data integrity, right? And looking at and taking the legal description from the property appraiser's website and bouncing up against the MLS input from the agent and say, what's wrong with this picture? And that listing data checker, those types of things, doing those types of jobs. That's where the power comes in. So there's good things with AI happening in the industry, and then there's this shortcutting.
Laziness.
Yeah, laziness and shortcutting it. And it's okay to write your descriptions, don't get me wrong, with AI. I used to hire somebody when I was in real estate in California that was a professional writer. He never saw the property, he saw pictures. But I still read everything he wrote, because if he said it was, wood floors and it was, something else, I'm going to correct that to make sure. So the agents and realtors have got to know that they're ultimately accountable for everything they put in that system. And as consumers look at it, they may not think it's a big deal. Whatever, let me get in trouble, I'll pay the fine. But as consumers are so educated today, they're looking at that stuff and going, well, Mike takes shortcuts because I can see it. It's in AI and this stuff is wrong. We know that's not a 2-story house because Mike didn't proofread it, right? So the consumers are real smart about that stuff and savvy. So I think you're going to hurt yourself by not doing it. Not only because it's the right thing for the consumer, but other consumers are going to look at that and go, I'm not going to ever hire that person.
So you had mentioned consulting for MLS companies, nonprofit organizations like Chamber of Commerce and stuff like that. What about real estate realtor associations? I know you consult for them as well. And I already asked you, what are some things that the MLS is going to change over the course? What do you think about realtor associations? What changes should they be looking at or be expecting for the future with the way the industry's changing?
I think the biggest...
It's a loaded question, I'm sorry.
No, it is. But I think the biggest thing for realtor associations is you're going to need to build your value proposition for your realtors. What is your value proposition? Who are you to them? Again, we talked about advocacy, government affairs. Those types of things are important. But how do we celebrate those things and let everybody know that they're happening? Because there's so many things that happen on, rent tax or those types of things that they may not necessarily know as a practitioner,
right?
Unless it's in front of them. So really getting the word out there that this is what we're doing for you. Again, protecting you. The same thing with education. That's important. But they need to figure out what they're doing with that.
It's hard because realtors look at the board as like somebody who punishes them, gives them fines, and just provides them with the MLS. But it's so much more, and getting that word out there, like you said, is important. But how do you get real estate agents to read something? Because we get so much garbage email, and to listen.
And buy in.
And buy into the culture,
and
okay? Back to the culture.
To not only the culture of their brokerage, but the culture of the association and the MLS organization.
The need.
Yeah, and I think how you do that is these are all businesses, right? Chambers, MLSs, and associations. You have to be where your customer's at.
Yeah.
And when I was in the MLS world, I went out and did broker office visits, and I was at where the customer's at. Mm-hmm. The days of expecting them to come in is long gone.
Yep.
And so when you go out and you meet with them, it's a customer call, it's a broker office visit, and sitting down and just being completely transparent and vulnerable and answer the questions you can answer without making things up and let them know what you're there for. What is the value? And that's a door-to-door sales mentality and approach, but it works. Because now you're in front of the brokers, you're in front of the agents, and you're out where they're at. And I think that's going to be a huge value because that's how you explain what you're doing in advocacy, what you're doing in education, what you're doing in membership, how you're able to help them moving forward. Mm-hmm. And your value, you have to go to them. Agents want to do one thing. They want to sell houses and make money.
Yeah.
That's what they want to do.
They don't want the noise.
They don't want the noise.
They don't want the noise that you were talking about earlier. So one final question for you, since you were a practitioner in the real estate world as a realtor and a broker, an executive. What are 3 things that business tips you would give realtors today that they should be implementing or utilizing if they're not?
So I would say the first thing you need to do if you're a realtor today in the marketplace is make sure that you're learning as much as you can. Be a sponge. To your point earlier, if you don't have an Inman subscription or an RS Media, get one. Know what's happening in the industry. Be knowledgeable. Get a designation, right? Set yourself apart from your competition, but knowledge is power. People pay consultants because we have knowledge, right? That's it. We bring to the table vision and knowledge. So have the knowledge available. Number 2, save money. Like, I see agents that had this up and down business thing. As a broker, I was like, what are you doing? And as soon as they have a downtime, there's no reserves to keep them through. And they start getting rid of stuff that's working. They get rid of their podcasts. They get rid of their CRM. They get rid of their website. I'm like, what are you guys doing? So like save money, have reserves, like treat it like a business. And then probably the third thing I would say is block out the noise, right? That's really the disruption that's happening. Block the noise out. You hear this stuff, be knowledgeable about it, but block it out. The boots on the ground realtors that build their business by referral, that build their business and stay in contact with their clients way after. And I'll give you an example. I've been in this business, got licensed in 2005 in Florida. I'm currently inactive in Florida. I've been inactive since 22. I've got customers still call me today about listing their house.
Wow.
And there's houses I sold in 2010 and 2011. So why? Because you build a relationship. Right. Your transaction's not over when your commission check clears. Stay in contact with these clients. They're too valuable to let them go. And you spend too much money acquiring them to begin with. So love on your clients. They're clients for life if you allow it to be, and you have a system to work that process.
I will say on a note to the save money, Florida Realtor President Chuck Bonfiglio is introducing something at the August convention, the Florida Realtor Convention, for realtors on how to invest and save their money for the future rather than just spending everything that you get. So kudos to President Chuck and that leadership team for trying to assist the realtors for their futures.
Yeah, it's huge. It's
Yeah,
huge.
because there's no 401k, there's no retirement when you jump into the real estate world and people make careers out of it. What other careers do you make that much money and you don't have a 401k or benefits or stock options in?
And putting money away for taxes and those types of things. So, I mean, that's smart.
And they forget, they forget taxes.
Yeah. Kudos. All right, that's going to do it for episode 20. That was a quick 35, 36 minutes. But if you're a realtor and you're going to be at the Florida Realtor Convention in Orlando in August of this year, you can stop by Jason and see Brexis Solutions up there. He's always available if you have any questions as well. I'm just going to put it out there that he's going to help you. So feel free to reach out to him, or you can always reach out to Kim and I. Thanks so much for tuning in.